carries a cost beyond dollars. It can steal your sleep, strain relationships, and cloud your view of the future. Hi, I'm Rob West. If debt has taken over your thoughts as well as your budget, today's conversation can help lighten the burden. Neile Simon joins us to discuss the emotional cost of debt and how clarity, wise counsel, and a practical plan can provide a path forward. And then it's on to your calls at 800-525-7000. That's 800-525-7000. This is Faith and Finance Live, biblical wisdom for your financial decisions. Well, our guest today is Neile Simon, a certified credit counselor and director of strategic partnerships at Christian Credit Counselors and underwriter of this program. Neile, always great to have you here.
Great to be back, Rob.
Neile, most people think of debt in terms of dollars and interest, but there's an emotional burden as well. What have you learned about the hidden weight debt can carry?
Well, when we talk about debt, most people immediately think about their finances, but I've counseled thousands of individuals and families over the years, and what I've really learned is debt is rarely just a financial issue. It carries a really heavy emotional burden as well, because debt affects far more than just our bank accounts. It impacts our sleep, our relationships, our health, and our sense of peace in that everything is going to be okay, because sometimes fear just takes over.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, these families are navigating difficult seasons. It could be a job loss, medical expenses, rising costs. We're all facing that. What circumstances, Neile, most often lead otherwise careful people into debt? And why is it important for them to know they're not alone?
So I just want to share with listeners that if you are struggling with debt, you're not alone. Many people feel ashamed or embarrassed about their financial situation, but the truth is life happens. I've worked with people who have accumulated debt after losing a job or went through a divorce, facing unexpected medical expenses, maybe had to retire early, help an aging parent, or even support adult children. Some people, too, are just trying to keep up with the rising cost of everyday living. So sometimes debt isn't just a result of irresponsible spending. It's really a result of doing everything you can just to get by during a difficult time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, before someone reaches out for help, what warning signs suggest that a financial problem has become an emotional burden as well?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we see as credit counselors is that the financial stress often shows up long before someone reaches out for help. People have shared with me during our counseling sessions that they're lying awake at night wondering how they're ever going to get out of their debt, or they'll avoid looking at their creditor statements because no progress is being made. Or maybe people are even working extra hours just to stay current, and that leaves little time for family or rest. So these are some of the signs that the financial burden is now becoming an emotional burden and has been compounded.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So for the listener who may be lying awake at night because of debt, what practical next steps and even biblical encouragement would you leave them with today?
Well, here's what I'd like every listener to remember is that seeking help isn't a sign of failure. It's really a sign of wisdom, because the earlier you reach out, the more options you'll have and the more empowered you are to take action and find a solution. I think one of the greatest gifts a certified credit counselor can provide to people isn't just a strategy for paying off debt, it's clarity. When people really understand exactly where their money is going, what options are available, and a path forward, it looks like a weight is lifted and really the peace is able to come in. So what happens is that clarity brings hope because people can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then as believers, we're also reminded that God cares deeply about every area of our lives, including our finances. Scripture encourages us not to be consumed by anxiety, but to bring our concerns to the Lord with prayer while seeking wisdom. That doesn't mean ignoring our financial challenges. It means facing them with faith, sound counsel, and practical steps.
Yeah, that is well said. And folks, Christian Credit Counselors can help you find hope in that path forward. Neile, we so appreciate our partnership. Thanks for being here today.
My pleasure. Thanks, Rob.
That's Neile Simon with Christian Credit Counselors. Their nonprofit team may be able to help lower your interest rates, create a clear repayment plan, and walk alongside you as you work toward repaying what you owe. Just go to faithfi.com/CCC to learn more. That's faithfi.com/CCC. Your calls are next. 800-525-7000. We'll be right back.
The opinions offered during this program represent the personal or professional opinions of the participants, given for informational purposes only. Any information provided is not intended to replace advice from a financial, medical, legal, or other professional who understands your specific situation.
Well, so glad you're joining us today on Faith and Finance Live. I'm Rob West. You know, on this program every day, we want to help you manage God's money God's way. We do that by starting with an understanding that God owns everything. You and I are stewards of what God has entrusted to us, and there are real implications to that reality. There's hope that we don't have to carry everything alone, but there's also humility, is that we begin to understand that everything we have is a direct result of God's grace. And you and I have to decide what faithfulness looks like right now. Not faithfulness when we get the job raise, not faithfulness when the bonus comes or when the business is a little bit further along than it is now or when we finally get that dream job. No, faithfulness today with what I have in my hands right now. What is the next faithful decision? And the good news is we're not left to our own devices to make those decisions. We can look to God's Word for practical wisdom and principles that really help us make those wise decisions, starting with asking for wisdom. James 1:5, if you lack wisdom, let him ask God, who provides richly. And so we want to ask God for wisdom, bringing these decisions before the throne. And then we want to seek counsel from others. Hopefully that's a part we can play as we help you think about the questions and decisions that you have on a daily basis. But as we move forward and make decisions day to day, we want to do so in light of the heart of God in Scripture. You know, our goal here on this program is not to give you a financial principle you could find on Yahoo Finance and then slap a Bible verse on it. No, that's not it at all. We want to go deep into God's Word. We want to be theologically sound. We want to go into the passages and the stories and the words of Jesus himself as we explore what the Scriptures say about how money should sit as a tool in our lives. We've got to be careful. It can rival our hearts for first position. But when we understand its proper place, that Jesus is our ultimate treasure and God owns everything and money is a tool and faithfulness is the measure, then we can move forward with confidence and make wise decisions. Well, if you have a question today, something going on in your spending or your saving, perhaps your giving, let us know. We'd love to chat with you about it at 800-525-7000. Again, that's 800-525-7000. You can call right now. In the news today, the U.S. Treasury Department and IRS proposed new regulations this week outlining how employers and employees can contribute to Trump accounts, those tax-deferred investment accounts for children. Under the proposal, employers could contribute up to $2,500 annually to an employee's dependent child's account without the contribution being included in their taxable income, like an IRA or 401k. Employers could also let workers direct pre-tax payroll contributions into their children's accounts, which is a nice feature. Trump accounts, which are also known by the IRS section code 430A, are available to U.S. children under 18 with Social Security numbers. And on top of them being just available to any child under 18, if the child was born specifically from 2025 through 2028, they may also qualify for a one-time $1,000 federal deposit from the U.S. Treasury. Parents, grandparents, and others can contribute up to $5,000 a year, including employer contributions. Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent said about 7 million children have already signed up, and more than 50 companies have committed to making employee contributions. The proposed rules are still subject to public comment and an October hearing before they'll be finalized. A lot of experts are saying that the added guidance could encourage more employers to participate. We'll certainly keep you informed, but wanted to let you know about that development related to the Trump accounts from this week. All right, we're ready to take your phone calls today. The number to call, 800-525-7000. That's 800-525-7000. Let's begin today in Florida. Kelly, how can I help?
Hi, I work for a school, and I am a teacher support. I work with kids from pre-K all the way to fifth. I have fibromyalgia for quite some time, and it's being harder and harder. I'm going to be 65 in January, and I am so I'm not going to have medical care until then, or Medicare. And I want to try to apply for disability, and I don't know if I should choose short-term disability to the county, or should I go with the Social Security for long-term disability?
Yeah.
Also, if I should do right away or wait a little bit since, Medicare we're not going to start until January 1st.
Okay. Yeah, just a couple of follow-up questions. Is the condition that is causing you not to be able to work, is that expected to improve, or is it likely to keep you from working for at least 12 months?
Most likely it will get worse.
Okay, yes. And then the second question is, does the school district provide both short-term and long-term disability?
I believe so, but I pay just for the short-term disability. I didn't pay for the long-term disability, so it's not something I don't know if they would offer without me paying.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, so I would suggest, just generally speaking, you use your employer's short-term disability first, since you have that coverage and you've been paying for it. At the same time, you'd want to review whether you're eligible for your employer's long-term disability plan, even though you didn't contribute to it. Many employers will provide long-term disability at no cost. Others require employee enrollment, and obviously you didn't do that, but the extent to which they have it, I would take a look at that. Because the condition is expected to worsen, and therefore it would prevent you from working for at least 12 months, don't wait to explore SSDI, and the application process can take months. SSDI has a 5-month waiting period after the established onset of the disability, and so you are going to want to take a look at that as well.
So I'll take a look at the school about the long-term disability.
Yeah, start with the short-term because you're paying for it, and then look into the long-term, and then with the Social Security disability, if you've worked, you've paid Social Security taxes, you become unable to work because of a serious disability. That's not based on financial need; it's based on work history and disability. And so, if you have a medical condition that prevents you from performing substantial work that's expected to last 12 months or more, then that's where the SSDI comes in. And so I would say go ahead and, apply through the Social Security Administration. That's different from your employer's disability insurance. That just usually replaces income for a few weeks or months. The long term is what, will allow you to continue further. But the SSDI can provide long-term monthly benefits until Medicare kicks in. But there is that waiting period on that. Let's talk a bit more off the air and make sure that I've got all your questions answered. I'm up against a break here, but Kelly, I appreciate your call today. We're glad to have you on the program, and call anytime. 800-525-7000 is the number to call. We'd love to take your questions today, help you apply biblical wisdom to your financial decisions. We'll be right back right after this. Stay with us. Great to have you with us today on Faith and Finance Live. I'm Rob West. We're taking your calls. The lines are filling up, but still a few available at the moment. So if you've got a question, call right now, 800-525-7000. Let's go to Huntington, Indiana. Wesley, go ahead.
Yes. We have this month a decision on an annuity with IRA pre-tax, and we have had to keep it in for 10 years in order to get, they promised, I think it was 15% at first. When I looked at it recently for their protected value, they call it, it was a little more. But in order to get that, we have to take it out in installments, I think of 5%. And I'm wondering, over the years, it's kind of kept up even with our required distribution on interest, but not, sometimes it's no interest and it fluctuates a lot. So it's guaranteed not to lose, but not to gain over 15.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
that sounds
so
right. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm wondering if there are better ways to invest that aren't, we're almost 80 in our 80s now, so we don't want to have risky investment, but if we could invest in kingdom valued items too, it would be more interesting to us.
Yeah, very good. So what you're describing here is not an increase in the actual account value. Instead, it's what you called and what they call a protected value. So it's an income base or a benefit base, and that's used only to calculate guaranteed lifetime or installment income. So here's how it works. You have the actual account value, which is the cash value. That's the amount that you actually own and could withdraw or transfer. Then you have the protected value or the income base. That's a higher phantom value. It doesn't really exist as cash. It exists only to calculate the guaranteed withdrawals. So it's not a lump sum that you can cash out. It's just this higher amount that they use to determine the income base. And so your account value, for example, might be $200,000. Your protected value might be $250,000, 25% higher. And then if the contract says you can withdraw 5% annually from the protected value, then in my example, you'd get 5% of $250,000, so $12,500 a year, instead of 5% of the $200,000, the cash value, which would be 10. And then the extra $2,500 a year comes from the insurance company's guarantee. But you can't take that as a lump sum. So if you take the lump sum payout or surrender the contract, then you would receive only the actual account value. In terms of what else you might do, if you have a desire for safety and faith-aligned investments, I would say you want to just look at whether, from a financial planning standpoint, you want to give up that guaranteed income benefit. You certainly want to understand what it's worth fully before you make that decision. And if the protected value is truly somewhere between a 15 and 30% enhancement by taking the 5% installments, that could be difficult to replicate elsewhere with comparable safety. That said, if you decide to move the money after evaluating the contract, then you could look at a faith-based fixed income portfolio with high-quality bonds. You could look at a balanced portfolio that has some stocks in it. You could use one of the certified Kingdom advisors that uses the faith-based asset managers like Timothy or Guidestone or Eventide or One Ascent. But I would, just make sure you've thought through what your needs are and what you're giving up before you move it out of there, and just make sure that, it is truly going to meet your income needs long term. Do you have an advisor, Wesley, who could walk through all of this with you and do some planning?
Not yet.
Okay. I think that might be the next step.
I asked the person who advised us in getting into the annuity if he was an advisor beyond the annuity, and he didn't answer. So I assumed he was not.
Okay. Yeah. So what you might want to do is go to our website, if you're comfortable with that, findacka.com, and see if you can find a certified Kingdom advisor in the area. Maybe you interview 2 or 3 and pick the one that you think is the best fit. But what you'd be looking for is 2 things. One is just to help you evaluate what's being offered to you through the existing annuity contract. and how that fits into your overall financial plan and goals. And then secondly, what alternative investment strategy that perhaps brings a faith-based element into it, but still meets your risk tolerance goals and objectives and supports your income needs long term. And then pray through that and decide which one is the best fit.
And do you have any idea how the advice is paid for to get an advisor?
Yeah, typically, I mean, unless you just engage someone directly for just financial planning that might be on an engagement basis or an hourly basis, typically somebody who's going to offer financial planning and the investment management is usually a percentage of assets under management. And it's probably somewhere from just under 1% a year to as much as maybe 1.5% a year of the total account value that's being managed.
Okay, thank you for your help.
Okay, Wesley, God bless you, my friend. Thanks for being on the program. Well, folks, this is Faith and Finance Live. I'm Rob West. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got a lot of great questions here. We're going to head out to Missouri and talk to Mary. We'll head to Florida and talk to Natalie, and then back to Illinois. Daniel's waiting with his question as well. We do have several lines open, so if you have a question, call right now, 800-525-7000. Hey, our new field guide is out. How much money is enough? It'll help you work through setting a financial finish line for your lifestyle and what we call a lifetime finish line for your balance sheet. Could be a game changer as you understand how much is enough and then possibly accelerate your giving. Check it out today at faithfi.com/shop. That's faithfi.com/shop. All right, a quick break and back with much more. Don't go anywhere. We're just getting started. Great to have you with us today on Faith and Finance Live. We're taking your questions today. We've still got room for a few more. We'll get to as many as we can. 800-525-7000. Let's go out to Missouri. Mary, thanks for calling. How can I help?
Hi, how are you today, Rob? Thanks for taking my call, and thank you for
I'm well.
last
Yes,
week.
ma'am.
One of my siblings that passed, my sister passed away 4 years ago, left everything to her daughter under a TOD account except for one bank account. The bank had originally said they were going to send it to unclaimed properties after 3 years. We went online and found out it may be 5 years. But we went back up there recently, and now the bank is saying it's going to go to a probate and not unclaimed properties when there is nothing else in probate. Her daughter, my niece, is trying to figure out what can we do. We took an affidavit of death and a death certificate that was recommended for us to do by an attorney to the bank, and they still wouldn't release the funds.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry about that. That can be frustrating as you're trying to get this all closed out and you've got this just one account remaining. I can certainly understand that you'd want to get it taken care of. Essentially, basically, if you've, I think the first thing I would do is ask the bank why the affidavit was rejected. Is it because the account exceeds the small estate limit? Is it because the affidavit wasn't the correct one, or are they requiring probate for some other reason? Did they say?
They said that they would not accept that because if the bank account was in my sister's name only, and now all the other bank accounts were in my sister's name and her daughter's name. This same bank. And This bank is saying that because this account, and we know that it's less than $30,000-$40,000. This was the bank account that she used to pay her monthly bills out of. It's probably not that much in there, but the bank is still taking a monthly fee every month for non-activity.
Yeah. Well, I certainly understand that, and that's frustrating as well. Essentially, it sounds like the bank's position is probably that, unless the estate qualifies for a small estate procedure under the state's law, that's maybe why they're saying it needs to go through the estate process, the probate process. I mean, a next step would be you could ask to speak to the bank's estate department, not just the local branch. And I would ask them, why doesn't the affidavit qualify? What legal document do you need to receive the funds? If they just simply insist that probate is required, you could ask specifically whether it qualifies for a small estate affidavit or what's called a summary probate in that state, because many states have a simplified process, but the dollar limit varies. So you would just need to see, if you're under that. And if you are, that may expedite things. If it has 30 to 40,000, that may exceed the small estate affidavit limit. And so they may legitimately be requiring probate, and that may be exactly right, just depending on the rules of your state.
Well, the last statement that my niece received at the home probably a couple of years ago, she said it was probably less than $10,000 in there.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's not like it's a whole lot of money. You said small estate. We should ask for small estate what?
Yeah, so you'd want to ask them specifically if it qualifies for the small estate affidavit or what's called a summary probate. Because if it's truly under $10,000, there's probably a simplified procedure available depending on the state. In some states, the bank-specific affidavit can be used to collect a deceased person's bank account without opening full probate. But each state has a different threshold or requirement, and that's why I think going to the bank's estate department in writing and ask why it was rejected and whether it can be released on a more simplified basis, I think, would be important, because they'll know exactly what the thresholds are and whether this could be expedited in a way that doesn't require full probate.
Okay, so the estate department at the bank. Okay.
That's right. Yep.
In writing. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, Mary. All the best to you. Call anytime. Let's go down to Florida. Natalie, how can I help?
Good afternoon, Rob. My husband just passed on July 11th, and I received our insurance money last week. And I had asked my husband, what would you like me to do? We still have a mortgage. Should I take that money and dump it to help pay off the mortgage? And he said no, because we had a lot of home repairs. Now our local church is helping us with all those expenses. I want to be wise in this money, and I want to keep at least half for emergency funds, and the rest of the half, which is $25,000, invested. I don't know, the money market savings account will, as you know, will give me zero, next to nothing. So I want to be wise about that.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm so sorry to hear about your husband's passing, Natalie.
Thank you. Thank you.
Man. Well, I appreciate your approach here and just kind of how you're thinking through this. And you want to be sure not to make any major decisions, for at least 6 months. But I think really considering what to do with these funds, and I love that you even talked to your husband about that before he passed. And what a blessing that your church is willing to step in and help with some of these repairs. I love the idea of you building the emergency fund first. And if your desire is to invest the remainder for your long-term needs, I like that a lot. I agree. I wouldn't put that in money market. I would probably, get that invested in a properly diversified stock and bond portfolio. Given the amount of money, it's probably going to be, something like a mutual fund or exchange-traded fund or a robo-advisor. Are you thinking at least a 10-year time horizon on this?
Oh, yeah. He was 11 years older, so I'm not even thinking about retirement right now. I work full time, and I just completed my Christian credit counseling. Praise God. We have no debt.
That's amazing.
My used car payment now, and I try to pay that very consistently. I'm pretty diligent about how I pay bills, because the mortgage and that I can afford. Right now. Yeah.
So, what are your income sources?
It's just my payroll that comes in, every 2 weeks, and we had a very low mortgage at a 3.87% interest rate. And right now, I'm staying still. I don't know what the Lord wants me to do with the house.
Yeah.
And like you said, I'm thinking, 6 months to a year. I don't know where He plans to plant me, or am I going to stay where I'm at? So I'm going to be wise. And if He says, well, it's time to move, well, then I'll have moving expenses together and all of that.
Yeah, very good. All right, well, let's do this. I've got a couple of additional questions, and then I think we can map out a plan going forward. Stay on the line. I've got to hit this break, but you and I will pick that up right on the other side. And then we'll head to Illinois. Daniel wants to talk about recommendations and guidelines to buy a home based on the income that he has. We'd love to chat about that. And then Chris is asking about refinancing her mortgage. Possibly room for one more call in addition to those holding. 800-525-7000. This is Faith and Finance Live. Stick around. Much more to come. Great to have you with us today on Faith and Finance Live. I'm Rob West. Before the break, we were talking to Natalie. Unfortunately, her husband just recently passed away after battling sickness for more than a year, and she's just wondering the path forward, specifically for some life insurance they received. She's going to use half of it, $25,000, to shore up their emergency fund, and she wanted to invest the other half. She's debt-free. She used Christian credit counselors. That's great to get out of credit card debt. Still a home mortgage of $80,000, car debt of $23,000. One option, Natalie, would be to pay off that car loan. If that's an interest rate of 7% or higher, you'd get a guaranteed return on that. And then you could take the difference of what you were sending to the car payment and then have your employer put that into your retirement plan on a monthly basis, equal to that payment that you no longer have. And then you'd have that go in tax deferred, so you'd get a deduction on that. And then you could manage it all through your 403B rather than trying to invest that on a taxable basis. And then you'd be down to just your home, and you'd get money going back into that 403B, which I know you stopped about a year ago. But give me your thoughts on that.
Wow, that never occurred to me. That really, and it would just lose all ends. I would just have the mortgage, wouldn't be a problem. That was my biggest concern, but I'm in a tax bracket that that it wouldn't be a financial hardship.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah, I think that would be good. I'd love for you to get money going into that 403B, because as it goes in, you're getting the tax deduction, and then it grows tax deferred. Whereas if we were to take this $25,000 that's left over after you shore up your emergency fund and invest it in a taxable account, now all of a sudden every time you have a gain in the account, you're having to pay capital gains tax. So I think I'd kind of like you to have the peace of mind of knowing I only have one debt. The goal is to pay that off before you eventually retire, so you're completely debt-free. And now you take, at the very least, maybe a little bit more, but at the very least, the same amount you were sending to the car, and have your HR department, take that out of each check and put it into your 403B. In terms of Social Security, as you pointed out while we talked off the break, at 59, you're not eligible yet for the survivor's benefit unless you're disabled, which you're not. In most cases, the survivor's benefit can begin at age 60, but it would be reduced. So you want, just given that you're planning to work as long as you can, you want to wait until your full retirement age, which would be 67, for your survivor's benefits, and you could get 100% of what your husband was entitled to, assuming that's higher than your own benefit. Yours may be higher, and if it is, great. But if it's his, you would have the option to do that. Now, one planning opportunity is that survivor's benefits and retirement benefits have separate claiming rules. So you may be able to take, depending on which is higher, you could take your own retirement benefit first, assuming his is higher, and then switch to his later at full retirement age. And then, you'd get the benefit of yours now, and you wouldn't have any reduction on his. Or if yours is higher, you could take the reduced survivor benefit at age 60 and then switch to your own benefit later. So you do have that option that you may want to look at.
Okay. Can I ask you one question I forgot to mention? He's a veteran. Would that play into now? I'm going through the paperwork for that. It's enormous. I know, very overwhelming, but I am entitled to something monthly. It's not going to be much because it's income based on my salary, and almost poverty line, kind of what they mentioned.
Got it. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the being a veteran could make a big difference here. In terms of the compensation, there could be a tax-free monthly benefit for a surviving spouse. Did he pass from a service-connected condition?
Oh, no, he had liver cancer. No.
Okay. All right. I mean, you may want to look into that. So he wasn't receiving any VA compensation of any kind?
He was not. He was not eligible.
Okay.
No.
So then the only other thing would be, and maybe this is what you're referring to, the survivor's pension, which is a needs-based monthly benefit available to a surviving spouse of veterans who meet an income and net worth limit.
Right. And I won't meet that.
Okay. Yeah. So then there's probably not anything there. I mean, it's worth looking into, but probably not a whole lot there. So,
right.
Well, Natalie, you're doing a great job managing all of this. I know it's a lot. I want to send you a book called Wise Women Managing Money that was written for widows in a situation just like yours. I think it'll be an encouragement to you. And if I can help further along the way, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks for your call today. Let's go to Illinois. Hi, Daniel. Go ahead.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for your call.
My question is, I'm interested in purchasing a home. I'm currently working 2 jobs to save up for a home. And my question would be, if my income is approximately $20,000 to $25,000 per year, what's the mortgage rate that I need to or should subscribe to, and so I can, like, what do you recommend for someone who wants to buy a house for the first time? Like, what's the most appropriate rate to sign with?
Yes, it's a great question, and it's challenging right now just because home affordability is really difficult. We've got interest rates high for the mortgage, and we've got home prices high as well. So the $25,000, that's from both jobs that you're working combined?
Yeah, and I even do side jobs like carpentry and construction side jobs.
Okay. Yeah. But that's annual, so you're bringing in about $2,000 a month?
Yeah. This is about
Okay.
$1,800, $2,000.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, so really what you want to do is look at your net pay. So let's say your after-tax pay was $2,000. I mean, the challenge is I would really love for you to not have more than 30% going to your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So that's $600 a month, which is going to be really challenging, just depending on what you're looking to buy. So I think your focus right now should just be, let's not get overextended by trying to buy a home too quickly. Let's just focus on renting for now. Let's save where possible, starting with that emergency fund. Make sure you're not carrying any high interest debt, and then just start saving as much as you can for that down payment with a goal of 20% down of whatever that purchase price is, and a mortgage payment, including taxes and insurance, that's no more than 30% of your take-home pay. And that gives you a rough guideline so you could start looking around to see what's out there and figuring out, okay, if let's say by waiting, you're able to get that down payment up and maybe your income, grows to where now you're making $30,000 or $40,000. Well, now all of a sudden you can do $1,000 a month payment instead of $600. But I think for the time being, I would just really focus on building up that emergency fund of 3 to 6 months expenses, getting something going into a retirement account on a modest basis, and then just trying to plow as much as you can into that down payment fund, and then work on letting your income grow over time and being patient on that home purchase.
All right. Yeah, that hits the nail on the head. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. All the best to you, my friend. Thanks for calling. Hey, stay on the line. I'm going to send you Ron Blue's book, Master Your Money. It's a classic. I read it coming out of college, and it was a game changer for me. It'll kind of give you a good overview of just all the key ideas on how you need to think about your financial life, both spiritually from a biblical perspective, but also practically in terms of investments and savings and debt and budgets and all the things you need to know. It's called Master Your Money by Ron Blue, and we'll send it to you as our gift, Daniel. So hang on the line. Let's finish today in Chicago. Chris, go ahead.
Hi, I have a mortgage at about a 5.25 interest rate, and I have 2 car payments at a higher interest rate, and also a medical bill through Cherry that I would need to pay in a year, or it would be at a high interest rate too. I have an offer from someone. I have a FHA loan right now. I have an offer from one of the lending companies to consolidate all of this and refinance the mortgage. It would be at a 625, but at the same time, there would just be one bill. I'm wondering if you can give me some wise words to direct me. What would be the best thing to do?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't like rolling up debts, even though I agree with you. It does simplify things. I don't like rolling up debts and putting everything on the house because, right now, if something were to happen, and you lost your income, you had a major event happen, you could be at risk of losing a car, but that's different than losing your home. And, with the medical debt, there really is no collateral there. And as soon as you roll everything onto the house, number one, you're increasing the interest rate. So now you've got more going to interest by at least 1 percentage point per year. And then number two, you've got all the closing costs, which can run, 3 to 5% of the mortgage value. How much do you owe on the mortgage today?
$280.
Okay. Yeah. So if, let's say we rolled all that together, I'm just going to make up a number. Let's say it's $350,000. That could run you $15,000 just in closing costs, not to mention the added interest of an additional 1% on over the life of the loan on $350,000. That could end up being tens of thousands in additional interest. So I would, as much as I like the simplicity, and I know that's attractive to you, I'd leave that mortgage alone. Let's not refinance it until you can reduce the interest rate by at least 1.5 percentage points, which would mean, you would want to get that down to 3.75, which that's not going to happen anytime soon. And then I just focus on let's get that medical bill paid off within a year. So dial back your spending, get on a budget. Let's focus on the medical bill so that doesn't jump to the higher interest rate. And then we'll go after the cars next. But I would not refinance this, as attractive as that might be. Natalie, thanks for your call today. We appreciate having the opportunity to weigh in. Faith and Finance Live is a partnership between Moody Radio and Faith Fi. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.